Happy Mother's Day. We're laughing. Why are we laughing? Because it's a joyful day today. And because my son is here this morning. It's a great, joyful day for me too. A couple of weeks ago, actually, I think it was the 24th of April, I talked about prosperity and the laws of prosperity. And we're going to do the same today, except today I'm talking about prosperity and the law of abundance. This is a very interesting subject. I have a few stories to share this morning. And as I was sitting back there thinking about the law of abundance and prosperity and words, realizing that, we can sit and listen to these words Sunday after Sunday after Sunday, but it isn't until the words become an active part of our life that the idea becomes a reality. So what I'm hoping this morning is when you listen to these words about prosperity and about the law of abundance, begin to think about your own life and to see if the law of abundance has manifested itself in some way in your life. And this is why I think the minute you begin to recognize this actual law of abundance, which is part of the law of prosperity, then you're going to see more of it and more of it and more of it come into your life. And in so doing, it's going to bring you hope. It's going to change your thinking from negativity and despair and hopelessness to just the opposite. It's a very, very powerful subject. So let me start with a definition of prosperity. Prosperity occurs when the soul of a person is in contact with the abundance of future. I'm going to repeat this again. Prosperity occurs when the soul of a person, when your soul, when my soul, is in contact with the abundance of future. Prosperity occurs when we are in contact with the highest potential within ourselves, our God-given potential. Prosperity is a facet of the consciousness of the universal soul. It is a thought form created by and part of the consciousness of the universal soul, of God, which was set into motion for the benefit of mankind. So when we think about the law of abundance and we think about the law of prosperity, we are thinking about the gifts of God. And do we have these gifts? Have these gifts been given to us? And we're told that if we have a soul, and there is a universal soul, all of which is part of the life of God, then why do we not recognize and realize that abundance is ours? Abundance is ours. And I'm going to share a couple of stories this morning that's going to prove that the law of abundance can be part of your life, can be part of my life. There is one little glitch. The glitch is what? The purer a person's consciousness, the greater his prosperity will be. So we have to think about what is purity. Purity is like beauty, it's goodness, it's joy, it's freedom. It is everything good and positive and hopeful and healing. The more, it's also the whole list of virtues that we know about. That if we preoccupy our thinking life, our heart-oriented life in this way, this automatically creates a magnet in our life field that begins to bring the law of abundance to us to meet our needs. It's very interesting. But if we're always negative, if we're always full of despair, if we are always lying to people about this and this and that, if we are always trying to impose ourselves upon others, if we're trying to control other people's lives, then the law of abundance cannot come into our front door. It's not going to cross the threshold because we have no need for the law of abundance. Because we're living a life that is separate from the life of God, from the life of Christ, from that flow of treasury which can be ours if we have a pure consciousness. So the purer a person's consciousness, the greater his prosperity will be. We are told in the teaching that thoughts are genuine radiations of great cosmic laws, plans, and purposes behind creation, behind created existence. That thoughts are the agents of revelation, thoughts are the agents of enlightenment, of synthesis, and true answers to our needs in any particular given cycle. We are told that verily thought is an ocean with all its currents. So we could say prosperity is a cosmic law, and its creative existence. The currents of this law, once registered and obeyed, will answer our needs. Abundance in the universe is unending. This is a statement we want to do a snapshot of, right? Screen capture. The abundance in the universe is unending. It is a law. Can we be daring enough to say that the law of prosperity and the law of abundance are part of the same law? Well, of course. But it is important that as we expand our consciousness, that we put these two laws into motion in every day of our lives. We need to be aware of these laws and use the gifts of these laws responsibly. I was reading the other day a paper written by Dr. Peter Timmerman, who is listed on a website of a co-worker of mine. Dr. Timmerman is a leading Western Buddhist commentator and research director of the International Federation of Institute of Advanced Study. This is a federation that engages in major research of key global issues. In 1995, he wrote a paper on the addiction of consumerism. Now, in this paper, he said this. He said, of abundance, the openness to abundance is complicated in our society by the fact that our current world view is based on a belief, and listen to this, is based on a belief in the fundamental scarcity of nature, nature being God. Traditional cultures have always believed that the world is fundamentally abundant, that God will provide, even though there are occasional scarcities, usually caused by human transgressions of sacred rights. These rules are founded on the principle that gifts must be respected, and waste is a sign of disrespect. He also says there is a desperate need in the West to produce and to consume, which is driven by a kind of panic and mistrust. Waste is the dark side of this, and he believes the human creation of pseudo-abundance. That pseudo-abundance is in fact causing the rest of the world to become scarce. He also presents a cause in his paper on the subject of poverty and frugality by the way of the life of St. Francis and others as a way to strip away possessions, and thus forcing attention to be paid to the abundance of what is given freely by God and the compassion of others. In stating the story of the exemplary life of poverty by St. Francis, this draws a humble attentiveness to the belief that simple things can result in the discovery of untold wealth lying around everywhere. And with the breaking down of the barrier of possessions, there can also emerge a new awareness of the community of all beings, as expressed by St. Francis in his Song of the Creation. He stated that St. Francis discovered that voluntary poverty is a gamble on an original abundance, on taking no thought for the morrow, on throwing oneself into the hands of God. When we read of the life of this well-known saint, you quickly become aware of his connection to God and cosmic law. In the Spring Prosperity book, it says, spiritual prosperity expresses itself as 12 virtues. If you develop them and bring them into your spiritual awareness and manifest them, you are going to be the most prosperous person in the world. He also says people try to be prosperous from the wrong end. Physical prosperity always, in all circumstances, brings suffering and pain if the spiritual manifestation of prosperity does not exist for the person. So here are the 12 virtues, and let me read them. The sense of beauty. Now these are all virtues that we need to be putting into our thoughtful life and our day-to-day life. The sense of beauty, the sense of universality, a sense of direction. And keep the sense of direction in mind, because this is going to relate to one of the stories I'm going to share. The sense of righteousness, the sense of purity, joy and enthusiasm, the sense of service, the sense of harmlessness, the sense of compassion and sacrifice, the sense of gratitude, and the sense of striving. These are the 12 virtues that go hand in hand with the law of prosperity. It is the expression of these 12 virtues which reflect spiritual prosperity, increasing the potential of prosperity in our mental, emotional, and physical life. Why virtues? This is an interesting question to think about. Each virtue is a path, a current of energy from the universal soul. As the currents of these virtues travel from subjective into objective manifestation, they serve us as guides into the higher worlds and spiritual prosperity. So virtues become our eternal companions on the path of infinity. So if we take, for example, just this one virtue, the sense of beauty, test it out. You just test it out, or test out joy and enthusiasm. What does joy and enthusiasm and beauty bring to your life? And if beauty and joy and enthusiasm comes into your life, then something else is going to be pushed out. Beauty is going to push out ugliness. Joy is going to push out depression, negativity, hatefulness. Enthusiasm is going to push out dullness, a lack of a sense of future. It will push out hopelessness. So that's how these virtues become a path, our path, the path of life. Imagine just living the path of joy. It almost goes against the flow of the life of most people. Or a path of beauty. When I was thinking, when I was in India, in Sikkim, and we were traipsing up the hill, and we went across this village, came across this village, that their homes were straw huts. We would be shocked to live in a village of straw huts. But to them, it was such a precious gift. See, they had been given this gift of prosperity. They had a roof over their heads. They had a dirt floor, but they kept that dirt floor clean. With a very interesting broom, by the way. Not a broom like what we have. It's a stick with very stiff fibers that they pulled from a tree, and so stiff, it was like, a brush that we scrub a floor with, and kept it clean. I think I've shared before, this one family had a sewing machine. Well, they were the wealthiest family, in the whole village. They did not know poverty. And that sewing machine was a treadle sewing machine. There was no electricity in the village. See, that was their prosperity. And they were so grateful for it. That was their beauty. That was their joy. That was their enthusiasm. They didn't know what poverty meant. So virtue is a path. Virtue becomes our eternal companions on the path of life. So let's talk. I picked out 4 of those virtues. The first one is a sense of beauty. This sense of beauty must be developed in both children and adults. Some people do not yet have this sense of beauty. It comes into being and formation as a result of age-long sacrificial service to the common good of many lives. Spiritual growth is only possible when a person starts to see the beauty within himself and within others. Beauty is abundance and attraction, and it increases our joy and vitality. The greatest protection in children is their sense of beauty. The sense of beauty is a great treasure. It is a source of abundance. in the human being, about which many are unaware. It is a great gift and treasure because it leads to success, to right relationship, to honesty, and to health and harmony. So you have to think about your own sense of beauty. Think about your childhood life. And think about what seemed to activate that sense of beauty in your life. For me, it was music. Music has color, it has sound, it has fragrance, it has joy. See, and when you present opportunities to your children, to your family, to yourself, that evokes that sense of beauty, you can't be depressed when you are in an environment of beauty. So beauty is a companion, let's say, of joy. When you're singing in a choir, you're not going to be depressed. You're going to be touched with the composer's idea of beauty through the written note. And as everybody around you is singing this magnificent song, you're all caught up in this swell of beauty and joy. I remember, as a kid, even on into my college years, I played the violin in a magnificent group of very accomplished musicians. We were playing the music of musical masters. Sometimes I would be so thrilled with and caught up with the magnificence of the music. It's like everything else faded away. The conductor, my co-workers, I was just there in the moment of that magnificent sound and beauty and rhythm that was given to us, the law of abundance. So it's like the minute you move into that environment of beauty and joy, everything else fades away. And that's the gift of abundance. Increasing joy, increasing beauty, increasing ideas. It evokes creativity. It gives us resolution to problems and so forth. But if we're immersed in depression and hopelessness and being a victim of this and that, this is how we move. It's like we close the door to the law of abundance. Nothing can increase except our depression, our negativity, and a sense of being a victim. So the sense of beauty is a great treasure, is a source of abundance within us of which most are very unaware. The second virtue, the sense of universality. People must cultivate this sense of universality before they are trained how to make money. The sense of universality will guide people away from their selfish interests. They will think in terms of helping others with all that they have, instead of using their money to increase their own pleasures and selfish interests. The sense of universality expands our consciousness because it challenges us to approach people and problems from the more inclusive point of view instead of separative points of view. It makes such a person a citizen of the universe and develops in him co-measurement and equilibrium. It's like a few months ago, I received a note from a family I didn't know. And they were raising funds. They were Indians. They lived in, I think it was Mesa, on a mesa here in Arizona. And a baby had been born to this family that was not healthy. Now, they are living in an Indian reservation. They have very little money. They, at that time, did not have any money to pay the electricity, in their little home. Not to mention, they didn't have the doctors to take care of the child because they didn't have the money to pay the bills. So someone apparently had told them about this, what is it called, GoFundMe, something like that. So they were just putting their faith on the mercy, of people that read this request. So I read it. From one point of view, I had, but I don't know, is this just a sham? Is this real? Gee, I don't know. And I thought, what the heck are you doing? First of all, who would make up a story like that? And they showed the picture of this little baby with, of course, a pink elephant that was holding it, So I sent some money through the credit card. They have kept me in touch with the whole process now of how they now have electricity in their home. They collected enough money that they got the attention of the doctors that are willing now to take care of the child. And now they're sending the child to some Mayo Clinic, to get complete health care. And here's this family that had no money, no electricity, and now their child is going to be taken care of, and they have electricity. That's the law of abundance. But if we think that's when we get ourselves in trouble. Well, is this a sham? Maybe this isn't true. Maybe they're just trying to get money. And there's no trust, and that door is closed. So the sense of universality expands our consciousness. I'm repeating myself here, because it challenges us to approach people and problems from inclusive viewpoints instead of being separative. Such people will use their money to bring more beauty and goodness and truth and justice everywhere, instead of making his money a means to satisfy his lusts and uncontrolled appetites and vanities. Mahatma Gandhi was a great sage. India was his treasury, but he dressed and lived in utmost simplicity. He said he did this because he did not want to rob nature. He said abundance is beingness and simplicity. Number 3, the sense of direction. We must have this sense in order not to lose our way when we are presented with many glamours of life along the way, the traps of life. That everyone needs to have a sense of direction. We first must have a purpose. And secondly, dedicate what we have and who we are to the spiritual welfare of our family, our group, community, and to humanity. So it is with this sense of direction that we will broaden our consciousness and progress to higher advancement. The sense of direction will challenge us to cultivate our inner potential so we can perform greater deeds on higher levels. A sense of direction will develop in us if we have a vision. So do you have a vision? Do you have a sense of direction? Prior to visiting India a few years ago, I was in communication with a visionary living in Kalimpong. Her name was Barbara Gierke. Barbara traveled to India from Germany in 1988. She studied the Tibetan language in Dharamsala and Tibetan medicine at the Medical Institute in Darjeeling. She pursued her Tibetan studies in a place I cannot pronounce, and that led her to North Bengal University, from where she obtained a diploma and a degree in Tibetan language and literature. Since 1995, she has been mainly residing in Kalimpong, where she steered the foundation of the International Trust for Traditional Medicine. Presently, she is coordinating research projects there while pursuing her personal research on Tibetan medical literature. Now, this is a person who had a vision that gave her a strong sense of direction. What makes this so spectacular, to me anyway, is having been in that area, having been in Kalimpong, having been in India. It is not like being in New York City. It is not like being in Phoenix, where you have the best of medical equipment available to you, or you have the best of Harvard graduates, and medical degrees to treat people. It's just the opposite. And yet the law of abundance, gave her this, how can I say this? She started out with a vision. She didn't say, I don't have the money to do this. The people in India that I want to go to and to serve are poor, so they're not going to provide the financial means to help me. There won't be any Harvard graduates, that are going to be behind me. How am I going to do this? Her vision and her dedication to the vision and sacrificial service, which is one of those virtues. And through this whole process, and I was there, I visited her very humble surroundings and the research that they are engaged in and the work that they are doing to bring people back to health in that area. Her needs are being met because of the law of abundance and purity of consciousness. Direction leads to synthesis, to peace, to abundance, to harmony, to cooperation, and to symphony. Each person, each group must have a goal which is beautiful, good, and real, a future project, a future purpose toward which we must polarize and focus our energies. This group continues to be inspired with an unfolding vision, giving it a strong sense of direction. It is this vision which has sustained us over the years, and we'll see us celebrating our 34th anniversary in October. The day before Wesak, which was April 22nd, I just happened upon a documentary titled Tashi and the Monk. And of course, there are no coincidences. I was interested because the documentary took place in the Himalayas, but also because when I was younger, I had the aspirations of starting an orphanage, which was most likely due to being adopted. The documentary took place on a remote mountaintop in the Himalayas. Here in the majestic beauty of the Himalayas was a poor and simple orphanage run by the Buddhist monk Lobsang, who had trained under the guidance of the Dalai Lama. But 8 years ago, he left behind his life as a spiritual teacher in the United States to create a unique community in the foothills of the Himalayas called Yamse, which rescues orphaned and neglected children, giving them a forever home. The documentary includes the beauty of the Himalayas and the decision-making process of the monk Lobsang has to make when taking in a child, but also places a focus on this little 5-year-old troublemaker called Tashi. Lobsang channeled his own unhappy childhood into an opportunity for other uninvited guests of the universe. A label given to him as a young boy to avoid a similar fate as his own. At the time of the documentary, he had 85 children that he had provided a safe haven for. For all who saw him there, they saw him as his father. He said something he never had. He said he never had a father. And imagine this, as a result, he said he was unable to use the word father. Isn't that something? Needless to say, it really touched my heart. He said as a child, he was taught to make his life meaningful. In order to make his life meaningful, you have to do something meaningful in your life. When he visited his childhood village, he would see so many children on the road who were struggling in their life. He said, when I saw their faces, it was like a clear message for him. He felt somebody was calling him to do something. He said, yes, I do not want what has happened to my life. I do not want any children in this world to go through the same challenges that I have been through. He says today, every morning I get up and I'm really grateful that I am alive and that I'm able to do something on my part to contribute back to the world. Do you see? Having a sense of direction gives him peace. The name of their community is Yamse Gatsal, which means the garden of love and compassion. It is in one of the remotest areas in the Himalayan region near Bhutan and Tibet. The region is still today one of the most disadvantaged areas, educationally, medically, socially, and economically. He started this community in 2006. He said that when they started it, it was so remote that often they said it's like the way to Jurassic Park, because it was totally a kind of jungle with bushes growing up, and even in the daytime you would be scared walking by yourself. He said, in a way, I feel that the community itself started a little bit like an orphan. It wasn't really a desirable place or somewhere that people felt would do good work. Lobsang is in contact with the abundance of the future. Isn't that something? Yeah. So it's still very active, and now that documentary film, is being shown, that there'll be more people, more help coming in. Part of the documentary showed him at a point where he was, in his sandals and carrying his cloth bag and going into other villages, because so many families cannot afford the children that they have, or that a child was ill and they didn't have the money, to take care of that child. And he had the burden of deciding whether the children's community could accept yet another child. And he would pray about it for days. And you can imagine the desperation of the family. He walks into the hut and it's like he's this beacon of light. You know, he's going to save this child, or a child, or 2 or 3 children that the family can't afford to take care of. And sometimes he had to say no. And the answer was always given to him through prayer. You know, and he had some difficult times with those decisions. And in one case, a young child died, and he could not take in. And of course, he thought, you know, what if he had said yes? Would that child still be alive? You know, but if you look on the other side, he has 85 children that now have a father. And he has a very small staff of women, you know, that have some medical training. But the kids are also taking care of themselves, each other. If you can see that, you can look it up on Google, Tashi and the Monk, you know, and you'll find the documentary there somewhere. The last one is joy. There's a book written about the life of Saint Francis of Assisi titled Saint Francis of Assisi, the man who found perfect joy. Certainly a most intriguing and unusual title or attribute describing a human being, but certainly an example of how joy is a branch of spiritual prosperity. This book is available at Amazon and on Kindle. You will find many surprises there about St. Francis's life. Real surprises. Took a while for him to become a saint. So it's leading up to that point that you'll be surprised. The teaching says love and create, and full joy will come. It also says joy is the manifestation of God's power, the Creator's power. When love increases, joy increases. Love is unity. When you become aware of the hearts and thoughts of others, you will be in the current of spiritual prosperity. As you become increasingly aware of the hearts and thoughts of others, you become creative, radiating a healing energy through your love, through your eyes and words. And this is joy, pure joy. Prosperity is the flower of joy. And in conclusion, the teaching says, the dark forces have brought the planet into such a condition that no earthly solution can restore its conventional prosperity. None can regard the earthly standards of yesterday as suitable for tomorrow. A disciple lays the foundation for prosperity, but it will not be prosperity on the material plane alone. We must begin to think of the higher octave of material prosperity, which is spiritual prosperity and the law of abundance. So that's it. It's a lot to think about, isn't it? Truly.